For his daughter-in-law's family, Di Xing has always been attentive, and now he can't care about his noble and cool image as the ruler of Di's family. He also laughs, "Grandma, don't worry, we regard Grandma as our own grandmother. These things are no better than what you tell us, and we will be ready immediately." This kind of courteous doglegs appearance, on the contrary, let Mo Shanghua not like in the heart. Horizontal eyebrows swept past. Di Xing's flattery slapped on the horse's leg, and immediately regretted. He quickly shut up and didn't dare to say more. Long Qing'ai secretly stepped on him, then looked at the flowers with a smile. "Grandma, if you lack anything, you must tell us." "No, I just want to practice now." Flower Eyes, on the road to restore the state of indifference, quietly refused. Di Yan hesitated for a long time, and finally came to her with short legs when she was about to enter the secret space of Joyo. You should take good care of yourself. I'll clean up your apartment for you." At first glance, great-grandmother's 4 words are simple, but it's not easy to say them. Little Diane blushes and only spits out such a sentence. Mo Shanghua rubbed the top of his hairy hair, and the corners of his lips raised a light smile. "Okay, then please." As for this little kid, talented and intelligent, she was quite fond of him, with a rare smile on her face. After the things that should have been explained, the flowers on the street entered the secret space without nostalgia. Yunwu has her whereabouts and knows when she will come back in the future. Then the day of meeting is just around the corner, and she has nothing to worry about. At present, the most important thing is that she must practice hard, otherwise, it is hard to say whether she will live to see Yanbei City and find her in the future. In other words, after her practice, she will be able to find Yanbei City by herself in the future, which is better than sitting here, eating and dying. Time flies, a year passes in a hurry. To the outside world, it's only a year, but it's been decades. An hour in the secret place is a year. It's been 12 years since Mo Shanghua practiced. Although she was well trained by Mo Shanghua in the past, she was quite talented in martial arts training, but she was often frustrated in her practice, because her soul in her previous life was so badly frustrated that her soul is still incomplete. However, Joyo took out some pills from time to time to support her. She was just in poor health and had excellent talent. In a few years, she had already reached a certain level of cultivation. I'm afraid that her accomplishments were higher than those of the 4 old men. At this time, it's time for Yunwu to come back. Mo Shanghua collects the skill, and is about to go out of the secret to see her daughter. But Jiu Yu comes over with a sad look. Her heart suddenly fast a few beats, vaguely skimmed a few good very bad premonition, said, "Cloud Dance, why did not come with you?" Jiu's eyes flashed, and finally told the truth. It's time to come back in the past, but this year it's already dozens of days late. Mo Shanghua suddenly got up, peering a bit anxious. Why? This year's cultivation has already made her more calm, that is, no matter how impatient she is in her heart, she can barely keep calm. 9U eyebrows twist into a ball. Also want to bother to comfort. I don't know the specific reason, maybe something is getting in the way. In short, you don't have to worry, they too now's skill is to look at all walks of life, can compete with the people are also very few, you really can't help now, just good practice. Mo Shanghua naturally knows this truth, can't help but close the lip, sat back again. Joyo has a point. Even if there is something really wrong, it should not be Yunwu. She must settle down and practice hard, so that she can break through the void as soon as possible. In this way, she will never have to worry here. If there is a cloud dancing smile, let me know immediately. Mo Shanghua raises her eyes to repeat it, then closes her eyes and continues to practice. At that time, on the mainland of China, a group of protoss surrounded Yanbei City. One of the white-bearded and white-haired men held a magic sword in his hand, and his lips raised a sneer. "Demon, you broke the oath and fled to the lower world. Now you dare to come back. We will never let you go this time. We need to be the masters of the common people and accept you as a demon. You are to blame for everything." The protoss seemed to be at the commanding height of morality, full of benevolence, righteousness, and morality. It seems that Yan Beicheng has recovered 80% of his power. Now he is dressed in black, his eyes are as cold as a blade, and his dignity is needless to say. At this moment, facing the siege of the Protoss, he still stood up, his thin lips coldly raised. 100 years ago, I said that I was against it, so what? In those days, you couldn't treat me like that. Now, you are the same waste. From the corner of the eye to the tip of the brow to the words, it is full of arrogance. However, what is different from the past is that now he is holding a child about 3 years old tightly. The child's eyebrows and eyes were exquisite, which was quite similar to Yan Beicheng's. At a young age, his dignity and bearing were completely self-contained. Is faced with such a situation, but also a little white face, forced to tighten the lips. Dad said that he must be strong so that he can protect his mother. After training to a certain level, everything around is like nothing, including time. Mo Shanghua, like an old monk, completely immerses all his thoughts into cultivation. Everything around him is like a dream, which is fleeting. She has long forgotten the time. Such a process of cultivation can't be interrupted at all. Jiuyo let her go without interrupting. Forget the time of the flowers, suddenly do not know, at that time, the world of 10 years has been in a hurry. And she was in a secret place, like 100 years later. A strong spiritual power explodes around her. Then, her hands are constantly changing, and her unconscious spiritual power is taken back, and no breath is exposed. In this way, Jiuyo can still clearly feel that her breath is very different from before. It's really a gift. Yunwu is really like her mother. Jiuyo sighed in his heart and said, "Congratulations." There is not a trace of joy on the flower face, only a slight nod of light complexion. For her, the 10 years had been 100 years. Although her appearance remained unchanged, her mood was no longer as calm as before, and she was more and more reserved. However, in the past 100 years, she still didn't realize it. She couldn't help asking, "What's the time now?" It's been 10 years for the outside world. For you, it should be 100 years. Jiuyo answered in a low voice, and said, "Cloud Dance hasn't heard from you for 10 years. What the flower's face on the street suddenly changed, and her brows were tightly twisted into a ball. Is it true that there is no news for half a minute? 9 You tiny nod, complexion sink to coagulate, I tried to think of a way to contact, but all is the stones sink the sea. Mo Shanghua is calm again, in the heart also ruthlessly trembled, rather no can still. Husband and children are not in the body side, hard to find a daughter, the daughter suddenly evaporated, such news is enough to make a mother collapse. 9 You see her complexion is already wrong, busy come forward to comfort, you don't worry, each space-time point is different, maybe she just went to which time point can't come back. Mo Shanghua didn't calm down immediately this time. She was as cold as ice. How could this century be better for her? In the past 100 years, she did not know the time, did not know everything, and was intoxicated in cultivation, so that she could see her daughter and husband as soon as possible. Now, how could she be reconciled to the result? No matter what, she must go and look for it herself. She must go and look for it herself. Jiuyo sighed, as if it was extremely difficult and helpless. In fact, Yunwu has been traveling all over the world these years, just to find your news. In this way, it is very likely that she will return to the mainland where I used to be. Mo Shanghua immediately grasped the key point and opened his mouth quickly. Jiuyo gently nodded his head. Before he could speak, he saw the flowers on the street. His eyes were firm. I want to go back. He opened his mouth and stopped talking. The flower on the street, however, was full of determination and obstinacy, and did not hesitate to say, no matter what the cost, I will go back. However, although her cultivation has reached a higher level now, if she wants to go back on her own, I'm afraid it's just a dream. Jiuyo sighed again. It seemed that he had no choice but to come down and said, if you insist on this, then I have no choice but to send you back. Without the protection of Ning Zhizhi, only Mo Shanghua is alone. It is obviously very difficult to shuttle through the cracks of space alone. It is her current cultivation, in which she can't even stabilize her figure, and can only sway with the storm of space. In the chaos of consciousness, she seemed to see the figure of Yan Beicheng. Maybe it's just an illusion, she thought in her heart, but she didn't know why her eyelids were more and more heavy. It seemed that there was a heavy object hanging on her eyelids, which made her unable to open her eyes. When she woke up again, she was already in King Yu's mansion. Qin Yushu, who had been married, made a bun for a woman. She looked at her with red eyes. "Princess, you're awake, slave. I'm worried about you." On one side of the south crane or in the past not out of the pavilion girl's bun, see her wake up also obviously relieved, fortunately wake up. Mo Shanghua raised her hand and touched Qin Yu's face. It was warm and moist. It was the body temperature. However, how can this time seem wrong? Mo Shanghua frowned, his voice was hoarse and rough, and his throat was a little painful. "What year is it now?" Qin Yu seemed not surprised. She said in a soft voice, "Now, the emperor died less than half a year." Nanha also sat down and explained the current situation. "You went out of Huaiyang with the Lord and the little son of the world. When you left, it was more than March. When you came back, you were the only one left." Speaking of this, her eyes are red again. "Poor little prince, now I don't know where I am." The flower eyes on the street are full of blank color. Some of them sit and stand for a long time and can't recover for a long time. What's the matter with all this? No, it's not right. She closed her eyes and felt it. When she felt the abundant spiritual power in her elixir, her brows tightened. Taking advantage of this gap, Qin Yu and Nanhe looks at each other quietly, and then says from Nanhe, "The new emperor ascends the throne." Now the Empress Dowager Shu is still regarded as the Empress Dowager. Now the birthday of the Empress Dowager is approaching, and she has plans to call all the vassal kings back. A few days ago, she has issued an imperial edict. Now the Lord is not here, so please cheer up. When she heard the words, she turned her eyes. Suddenly, her head began to ache. As if she had been stabbed by something, she covered her head with her hands and shrunk into a ball. What's going on? Why did this happen? Is it the wrong time she crossed? Why is the kingdom of God only after March? All kinds of questions and puzzles intertwined in her mind, making her head ache. It took her a long time to bite her lips, until the smell of blood came up between her lips and teeth, then she managed to calm down and accepted this reality for the time being. "I still have something important to do. Let's put it on hold." Casually command A, the flower on the street then lifted directly be about to get out of bed. Nanha pressed her down and frowned, "The new emperor is not better than the previous emperor. I don't want to call the vassal back to Beijing. If the princess can't cheer up, the next thing that will kill the blood is Huaiyang." Qin Yu also tightly held the hand of Mo Shanghua, red eyes to comfort, "Princess, in any case, please take the overall situation as the most important." Mo Shanghua's whole blood seems to have been evacuated at this time. Thinking of Yunwu, who is missing again now, and Yan Xizhou, Yan Beicheng, she would like to shuttle to various spaces immediately to find them in person. However, she can't do this at the moment. Yuzhou needs her, and Qin Yan and he needs her. Good dash, a simple good word, but it seems to have exhausted all her strength, making her nearly collapse. Qin Ye and Nanhe exchanged a look, and they knew each other by heart. In modern times, Yuning Tongji has temporarily solved the identity problem for Mo Shanghua, but in the kingdom of God, she has to face the pressure brought by her identity. No matter what, she has to go to the imperial city in person. Although Qin Ye has got rid of slavery and become the general's wife, she still helps the stranger to wash the flowers. South Crane also help on the side of the flower selection princess dress, ready to ride. Soon, the flowers on the street were carefully cleaned up by the two people, and they were dressed in the red dress of the princess, as well as the crown of the princess's hair. Mo Shanghua, full of worries, is not in the mood to see himself in the mirror, far from knowing how he is dressed up. Qin Yanan he seems to have taken care of everything. He just waits for her to wake up and wash, and soon takes her to the carriage. Mo Shanghua is not in the mood to think about it at the moment. After getting on the carriage quietly, she thinks about it carefully. When she knows about it, she doesn't know what is waiting for her. All the equipment was finished, but the carriage didn't walk. Mo Shanghua just recovered. Her brows slightly frowned and she was about to ask, but suddenly she saw a pair of slender palms with distinct knuckles in front of the curtain of the car. With that hand, she lifted the curtain. Then, a person stooped in and sat down beside her. The flower on the street breathes suddenly. It seems that I can hear my heart beating, and my eyes are gradually moist. She could hardly touch the person in front of her. This person is not someone else, but Yan Beicheng, who has not been seen for 100 years in her heart. He was dressed in a black royal robe. His eyes were as beautiful as before. He could not see the end of it. He wanted to inhale half of the flowers in the street. Hot tears ran down my cheeks. At the moment, there is a blank in my mind. She just instinctively stretched out her hand and stroked his cheek with trembling. When she touched it, tears came down like a spring. Over the years, she has been cold and silent on the surface, and even can barely evoke a smile to others. But in fact, her heart has been tortured by endless acacia pain, and now she can't even believe her eyes. This is also the time when she seldom shed tears. Yan Beicheng's face is still beautiful and charming. In fact, he is tired at the bottom of his eyes and can't help being sad. At the moment, he suddenly sees the flower in the street. He can't bear it again and again. He still holds her tightly in his arms. His body trembles gently and he is full of the complex state of mind that he has lost and recovered. In the eyes of Qin Yan'an, he and his wife, they have been missing for more than 3 months, but in each other's hearts, they have been separated for thousands of years. Especially Yanbei City. He and Xia Sizu unexpectedly returned to the mainland of China, and the old Protoss people knew his trace at the first time, and they could not help pestering him over the years. He returned with Xia Sizu to find his own strength in the demons, and the strength of the demon god finally made the old Protoss people fear. However, they are willing to do nothing because of heaven. Otherwise, they will have to struggle for thousands of years. He is not afraid of those damned Protoss. He is only afraid that he will disappear for too long and the flowers in the street will not wait for him. Therefore, he has been working hard to cultivate and recover his skills, which can be found again in 100 years. Fortunately, he got Tianqin's advice, otherwise, he could not find the flowers on the street so quickly. The carriage started to walk slowly. The flower on the street cried for a long time, then raised her head. A few tears were hanging on her eyelashes. In fact, you have come back long ago, haven't you? What I met in the crack of space is you, right? Yan Beicheng drooped his head and gently kissed her eyelashes. His eyes were full of love. Yes, in fact, I came back before you left the pass. Then why don't you come to see me the first time? Mo Shanghua's eyes are still a little red. He can't help pinching the corner of his clothes for fear that he will disappear suddenly. Yan Beicheng held her tightly and said in a low voice, "That day you were at the critical moment of cultivation. How can I interrupt you? Besides, I guess you want to go back to the kingdom of God and Huayang more." Yes, although she remembered everything, she was happiest when she was in Huayang. There are countless memories here. He and Yan Beicheng fell in love here, and Xiao Xizhou was born here. She also has many friends. Only here can she be truly happy. Only here is the most peaceful life. He knew that this must be the place where Mo Shanghua wanted to be. Mo Shanghua and Yan Beicheng clasped each other, and their fingers were tightly clasped. Yan Beicheng gave a low smile, and the coldness in front of him faded away. At the moment, there was only gentleness in his eyes. The carriage stops slowly at this time, and Yan Beicheng leads Mo Shanghua to get out of the carriage. She had already guessed a few points in her heart. However, when she saw it, she was still shocked. Qinya and Nan, he cheated her together. Where is the imperial edict of the new emperor, and where is the trip to the imperial city? At that time, Just after getting out of the carriage, there was the already paved red carpet at the foot. Looking up, the extremely beautiful color extended to a long pavilion with flowers on both sides. There is nothing like that. Yan North City turns ahead, clenched the hand of Mo Shanghua, low smile Wei, go. She nodded her head and raised her lips. At this moment, she is really happy. The pavilion at the end of the red carpet is also covered with flowers and decorated with red silk. What surprised Mo Shanghua most was that there were 2 rows of people standing on both sides of the end of the corridor. Many of them were familiar faces. Qin Lin, Qin Ye, Nan He, Hua Qianlu and Mo Ling were all familiar friends. Naturally, her little boat is also among them. On the side of the boat, there is a woman standing quietly. The woman's face is exquisite and beautiful, and her temperament is cool. Just standing so quietly, it is a beautiful scenery. On her side stood a man with the same handsome face and detached temperament. The flower on the street stops walking, the voice of the people in the ear seems to go away gradually, and the eye light is opposite to the smiling woman. Although today's body has no blood relationship with her, the feeling of blood has already gone beyond the blood and consolidated in the soul. At a glance, she recognized the woman in front of her. 100 years of obsession is finally resolved at this moment. Mo Shanghua tried to control the shaking hand, slowly holding the woman's hand, some difficult words, cloud dance. After so many years, when her daughter really appeared in front of her, so graceful appearance, she was trembling and nervous. Cloud dance hard is also difficult to hide the complex. At the moment to see flowers on the street like this, eyes also gradually revealed a bit of water, mother said, then straight knelt down. Cloud never kneel heaven and earth, only willing to kneel parents, daughter unfilial, until now to find a mother. Cloud dance body side long Qing evil also followed to kneel down, on the face smile received, Wei, son-in-law has seen mother. After a pause, his eyes swept to the side of Yanbei City. After a little hesitation, he said, father-in-law. Yan North City light cough, like deliberately show his father-in-law's identity in general, will be put on the shoulder of the flower. Xiao Xizhou followed Yan Beiqing these years, and had already grown into an adult. Now, in order not to make the stranger feel uncomfortable, he changed back to his childhood appearance, and knelt down with him. Mother, Xizhou said that he would protect his mother when he grew up, and this can be proved in the future. On one side, Qin Ye and others have already been stunned, full of fog. They only knew that these people were deliberately arranged by Yan Beiqing, but what's the matter now? The 2 men and women don't look like children of several years old. Why do they call their parents? So, what's going on? Mo Shanghua and others, who are immersed in the final meeting, are not in the mood to pay attention to their thoughts. At the moment, she forbeared the excitement in her heart and pulled Yunwu up. She didn't look at the dragon on the side of Yunwu. To think about it, Yunwu's nose was not his nose, and his eyes were not his eyes. No matter how he looked at it, it was really in the same strain. Fortunately, Yunwu was not born in Yanbei City, otherwise he was afraid that he would not like to see the dragon more than the flowers on the street. At the moment, Yunwu only cares about the recognition of her mother and daughter. She says with a smile, Mother, today is your birthday. Don't you forget it? The flowers on the street frowned slightly and thought for a while. They could not help laughing at themselves. I haven't forgotten it for many years. The cloud dances to smell speech, the Mao light falls on the Yan North City body of one side. In my heart, I was thinking that I had let him take care of my mother, but now I secretly abducted my mother. I think it's really hateful. Fortunately, he is sincere to his mother. As if Yan Beiqing could not see the dark front in the cloud dancing eyes, he took advantage of the past and pulled the flowers back to his arms. Mo Shanghua hasn't reacted yet, Yunwu and others have quietly stepped back. Xiao Xizhou waved his short hand. The child, who was obviously not big, was frowning and winking at the moment. He said with the shape of his mouth, Mother, happy birthday. The rest of them also looked at them with a smile, eyes full of blessing. Yan Beiqing holds the hand of Mo Shanghua in both hands and looks at her with a smile. Her beautiful face is reflected in her deep eyes. Countless fireworks rose to the sky at this time, and they all burst out in extremely beautiful shapes, bright as meteors and bright as day. A huge array of lights suddenly formed at their feet, and a light golden light enveloped them. Everything around seemed to be gradually blurred. In front of him, only Yan Beiqing's face was very clear, especially his eyes, which seemed to contain thousands of stars. His voice is deep and affectionate. Flowers on the street, I am willing to share life with you, life and death, are you willing? All around long silence, two people's breathing intertwined, each other's eyes only each other. Good-1. I was born in the most humble and intolerable demons in mainland China. As a demon, wherever I go, I am like a street mouse. Everyone shouts and fights, and everyone fears. The superior fairies and protoss regard us as animal demons and kill us when they see them. It is true that most of the demons are sinister and cunning people, and they are ambitious. They want to take the place of the fairies and protoss and dominate one side. I'm not very interested in dominating the 6 realms. I'm just trying my best to get rid of all this. Fortunately, Tianshan, the god of the protoss, and I were born at the age of chaos. I spent thousands of years practicing and flying as a god in the body of the demons, which is comparable to the skill of Tianshan. The demons call me the demon god. They want me to lead the demons to attack the fairies and the demons, but I hide and live a happy life. It's just that it's hard to avoid boredom when it's a day of peace with the world. Until I saw that wisp of persistent soul in the reincarnation door. It is clear that her soul is weak enough to dissipate at any time, but she is still full of obsession and refuses to enter reincarnation. It is true that her soul is too weak to enter reincarnation with her own strength. 100 years, for me, is just a flick of the finger, but for the ghost, it is the limit. I once promised Yunwu that I would keep this woman, but I also made a contract with the protoss, and I would never do anything. Finally, when she was about to die, I gave my hand and saved her. The protoss came out quickly. I protected her wholeheartedly, and was besieged by many protoss experts. I was seriously injured. I reluctantly sent her to the reincarnation path to avoid the pursuit of the protoss, and to repair my damaged soul in many reincarnations. I joined the reincarnation path together. Unexpectedly, the protoss was still chasing after her. There was something wrong with the well of samsara. She was sent to another world. I was separated from her and entered another world. For more than 10 years in the world, I became Yanbei City. At that time, I had only revenge in my heart. I never thought that a person with such a cold and bitter nature could meet the love of this life. From the beginning of the alert, to later gradually infected by her every move, frown and smile, at that time, my world in addition to hatred, is all her. I'm afraid she didn't know about all this. My love for her came much earlier than her. She is a cold and indifferent person. In addition, I found that we have a lot in common, the same disgusting father, the same rough life experience, the same hatred, each of which makes me a little happy. The only difference is that I am full of darkness and obscurity. Apart from the same darkness as me, she is more indifferent and insensitive. Her heart seems to be wrapped by something, which is difficult to integrate into. I know that it must be very difficult for such a woman to enter her hands. I've never tried how to please a girl. I can only come by instinct. I'm cold and cold behind me, and I have to disguise as a dandy in front of me. I don't have to disguise myself when I face her in private, but if I take off my disguise, she is also cold and unsmiling. How can we make half progress? When I saw her for the first time, her face was full of scars and she described terror, but only her eyes were so bright that I thought in my heart that if I could marry her to me, it would be quite suitable for me, the ugly lord of waste firewood. As it turns out, we really match. Match to even the reputation is the same, infamous, no one knows. At that time, I was just a mortal, but I was wholehearted to her, but she was insensitive to her feelings. No matter what I tried, she was still at a loss and ignorant. Only when we were still in such a mutually beneficial relationship, fortunately, I was unwilling to give up and eventually covered her heart. When she showed her heart with me, it was the first time in more than 20 years that I was so happy, like the joy of my life all gathered at that moment. At that time, she finally gave me a real smile and told me all of her without reservation. We went all the way from Yuzhou to the imperial city hand in hand. After life and death, we could be at ease at last. However, at the moment when Ning Tongji appeared, there was a little change. At that time, my memory had not yet awakened, and I was extremely afraid of the magic he showed in front of people, especially when he sent the imitative bird to the stranger for flowers. When she fainted, I still had no sign of awakening, and I was extremely frightened. Fortunately, my memory is not so dusty down, after all, in the wake of the wrong. Tens of thousands of years of memory poured into my mind, no one knows my pain, I do not want to say, I am afraid she will be too worried. But when I woke up, I saw the blood in her eyes and the haggard all over her body. Although I have recovered the memory of years, my love for her is not reduced at all, and her appearance makes me feel even more distressed. At that time, I swore in my heart that I would let her live the expected life. I am very selfish, I would not ascend the throne, just want to complete her ideal, accompany her to be a happy couple. After all kinds of hard to survive, Yan Sinshuan sat on the throne, my heart to him the last trace of vigilance also dissipated, because I asked Lu Zheng, that is his half-life in exchange for the result. I am very afraid that Imoer will have psychological burden, so I cooperate with her not to notice it. The next 3 years are my happiest days. When we were in the imperial city, because we had to keep filial piety, we couldn't make too much publicity. She was pregnant and worked very hard. I accompanied her day by day. I wish I could resign all my official titles and only accompany her day by day. If she hadn't scolded me twice, I would have done so. Later, when she gave birth, I watched her whole painful face twist. My whole body was shaking. The panic of my life gathered here. The dried-up corners of my eyes were moist for a few minutes, and I almost burst into tears. But I didn't recover at that time. I couldn't help her at all. Fortunately, she was safe in the end, and we had our common blood and bone. At that time, I had decided in my heart that, in any case, this would be our only child, and I would never let her experience it again. She broke through the previous prohibition because of childbirth, and all her past memories surged up. She was weak after childbirth. I was worried that she was too emotional, and her qi and blood were surging. When she dragged her weak body forward, she could only seal her memory again. I wanted to let Sizhou recover her memory when she was 7 or 8 years old, but it's hard to predict that she finally recovered her memory ahead of time. At that time, I still couldn't see through Ning's identity, so that I didn't fall into his calculation. I fell into the space crack with Imoer Sizhou. In the space crack, my strength can't protect Imoer, so I can only barely hold the boat and watch Ning Tongji lead her to the unknown. I finally went back to mainland China. I know that during the period when I left, there was a huge accident in mainland China, which was caused by the cloud dance. The initial disaster did not exist, but the old and stubborn Protoss were still safe. As soon as I came back, they were like smelling delicious dogs, and they all rushed up. Simply, before I fell into reincarnation, I secretly left a part of the power of inheritance. Only by taking back that power can I recover 80% of my previous skills. At that time, I took Xiaosizu back to the demons. Naturally, these old and stubborn Protoss had nothing to do with me. But I didn't expect that they had the courage to start a war between the gods and demons. The demons were suppressed for many years, and they were ready to move at this time. But once the two sides go to war, it's hard to stop without 100 years, but my stranger, I'm afraid I can't wait until then. I don't want to stay 100 years later, so I can only regret to find her next life. At the last moment, Tianxin stepped forward and suppressed the Protoss. I know that Tianxin is because of Yunwu, because his mother thousands of years ago. When I thank him, I also know that Nanang is a substitute for him. All the confusion in my heart is solved. But it has been 9 years since all these things were dealt with. Even Sezhou has grown up. I was very anxious. Fortunately, with the guidance of Tianshan, I didn't have to travel blankly in the 3,000 worlds. Soon I went directly to the earth and met my homesick stranger. As expected, she did not give up on me. She had been practicing with great concentration, and the progress was amazing. I didn't dare to interrupt her. I just quietly lost my spiritual power to her and wished her a breakthrough. On the other hand, I had already met Yunwu in mainland China. We made this plan together and planned to surprise Imoer. I wanted to get everything ready for Huayang, so I directly came to see her and took her back with me. But I didn't expect that she would come back alone and almost lost again. My heart was aching, so I brought her back, carefully cured her injury in the turbulence, and placed her in the palace. Later, under my layout, she was pushed into the carriage. I usually don't care about clothes, but that day I carefully selected the clothes that match her and appeared in front of her with a bright face. It was the first time I saw her break down and cry like that. I held her tightly in my arms and told myself again and again in my heart that I would never leave her in the future. She was very smart, and she guessed all my plans. All my reactions after seeing Yunwu were expected. However, these are not my surprise. The real surprise, she would never think of. Yunwu and I also had a group of people celebrating her birthday. Under the gaze of all the people, after I slowly talked about the self-recovery method, I always thought about things and shared my life with her. I think only in this way can we stay together forever. She looked at me, and my figure was reflected in her eyes. There was a faint light in her eyes. She answered softly, "Okay." At that moment, my world was fixed for eternity. At that moment, I told myself in my heart that from then on, we will never leave. I was born in the royal family. I am the 13th son of Emperor Rongdi. Most of my father's sons and heirs are weak. Before me, several of my brothers died early. When I was born, the 8-year-old prince died early. When my father was devastated, he looked forward to me more and more. It's a pity that I was born prematurely before I was full term, and my body has always been weak. The father and the emperor valued their sons, and because the eldest brother died early and the 5th brother was ominous, they loved me very much. When I was young, I seldom went out of the house. My mother said that I was not in good health and could not bear the wind. But when I was young, I wanted to go out to read, practice calligraphy, ride horses and shoot arrows like my brothers and sisters. But in the end, I could only set up a small table in the room and read words by myself. When I was 6 years old, perhaps because I had lived in the palace all the year round and never went out, my body began to get better, and my father and emperor took me to the palace banquet together. I sat in the arms of my father, dare not speak, dare not move, only carefully looked at everyone on the palace banquet. I saw the Empress Fengyi thousands of coming, the Empress and all the people kneel down in front of her. When I was young, I sat in my father's arms and didn't move. When my mother looked at me, she didn't seem to like me very much, but she still praised me in front of him, saying that I was very similar to him when he was young. I also saw the 13-year-old second brother. The 13-year-old second emperor brother was very good-looking. He laughed at everyone and me, but I was afraid of him and didn't dare to be close to him. Halfway through the palace banquet, the 4th emperor brother suddenly fell ill and vomited black blood in his mouth. His mother said that he was poisoned. In those days, I was forbidden to go out again by my mother's imperial concubine. Later, my mother's imperial concubine told me that the 4th emperor's brother died and the Empress Su in the palace was gone. I had just recovered and began to get sick again. I could hardly be saved several times. My father still cherished me like that, but I didn't have the first expectation in my eyes. I just loved him. I am very glad that only I get the complete father's love. When I was 16 years old, my father's birthday, my body had stabilized, so I attended the palace banquet. Maybe few people will believe the word, fall in love at first sight, but I really saw that girl at the first sight. That year, Prime Minister Liu went to be the Minister of the Ministry of Official Affairs. His daughter, Feng 28, followed his wife with her head down and a gentle smile. That's where I started my first heart pounding for a woman. As a prince, I can't go out of the palace often, and the women's family members outside the palace are not allowed to enter the palace unless they have a special banquet. After that, I haven't seen her for a long time. Later, the queen wanted to marry the second prince. She invited many ministers and their wives to bring their outstanding young daughters to the palace. Lu Qianqian, Lu Shangshu's daughter, was among them. I can't tell what hairpin she was wearing on her head, and what material she was wearing on her clothes. I just think back to now that she was very beautiful in goose yellow. The queen picked a circle, and finally chose her. After a few words of praise, she remembered her gratitude. I saw that she was tripped and fell in front of the crowd, losing her face. My heart pulled up, and finally forced myself to restrain. She was also secretly glad that she lost her honor in front of the hall and could not be seen by the queen. In the end, she was not selected either. The queen lost her interest and left alone. After the party, I deliberately played the piano in the royal garden to attract her. I had a good time with her. Her smile was shy and gentle, and my heart almost jumped out of my chest. After that, I often went out of the palace to meet her on the pretext of finding a folk doctor. I have never said that I would like to please her, and she has never expressed her feelings to me. We just play the piano and discuss poetry occasionally. She just thought it was nice, but she couldn't play it. I wanted to teach her, but she kept her head down to avoid me. Her earlobes were red. When she went out, she accidentally bumped into a girl and was insulted by that girl. She also kept her head down. I couldn't help but give a head for her. After that, our story spread a little. I nearly ruined her reputation. The next year, her father was promoted to prime minister, and she became Prime Minister Qian Jin. But at this time, it was said that she was the prime minister. It is said that the real Lu Qianqian has accepted her ancestors, and she can only rely on her mother's occasional care to become a nominal concubine in the house. Later, the news that she killed her mother came out. I heard that she had been destroyed and would be executed in a few days. I was so anxious that if I had to save her in the future, I would never get sick. When I woke up from a coma for a few days, she had been married to Yuzhou in a carriage. From then on, she was the princess of the fifth emperor brother and my sister-in-law. I'm sad and I'm glad. Anyway, she's still alive. But my heart has died at this moment. When my father wanted to send my second brother to Yuzhou, I couldn't help it. I begged for everything before I went. My mother's eyes were red with tears, and I didn't waver. Yuzhou's journey lasted 2 months, but I didn't get sick, so I was able to see her again. I kept imagining in my heart how miserable she was now and how terrible the wound on her face was. I heard that the fifth emperor brother is a ridiculous person. I don't want to treat her well. But when I really saw her, there was no terrible scar on her face, and there was no color of sadness, but the birthmark on the fifth brother's face was quite frightening. She lives very well. She is dressed in the royal dress. She is gorgeous and elegant. She seems to be more beautiful than before. She just looks at me coldly and calls me emperor's younger brother. I restrained my trembling hand, swallowed bitterness, and called the emperor's sister-in-law in a soft voice. She did not change her face. I fell ill again in King Yu's mansion. I heard her every move in the mansion day by day, and I knew that she was almost assassinated. But I was weak and useless, and I had no position to speak out. I could only stay in bed all day. When I got to Yuzhou, I didn't get used to it. I slept very light every day. At night, she felt my pulse quietly. I was surprised and puzzled. She saw me wake up, no panic, no surprise, she is just very calm to tell me that she had died before, she is not the past Lu Qianqian. At first, I didn't understand her meaning. Later, day and night in Yu's mansion, I saw her indifference and ruthlessness, her cold and resolute determination, and her detached medical skills. A very bold idea gradually took shape in my heart. My previous description may be wrong, until now, my heart is completely dead. I know that she is not Lu Qianqian, but I know that the body is still her. I know that she will live well for her, so I leave what I have prepared for her to her now. In fact, when I was in Yuzhou, I didn't have a good body, but I pretended to have a good body and set out as soon as possible. The so-called real Lu Qianqian, who was welcomed back from the Prime Minister's residence, was as gentle as her, but I didn't like her in my heart and never said a word to her. The imperial doctor said that I was too worried, so on the way back, I was always ill and never got better. The second emperor's elder brother was very considerate of me. He was really a good elder brother. I took all the supplements he gave me one by one. Finally, I came back to the imperial city with this broken body. I have been ill for half a year. My father, mother, and concubine are very concerned about me. But no one comes to visit me except the second brother. Lu Qian, the pearl of Lu Xiang's return to the monarch, is well known for his fame at banquets in the palace. When I was a little better, it coincided with the birthday of the emperor's grandmother, who was finally recalled to the imperial city. I know it's not her, I know she's called Mo Shanghua now, but I still can't be calm in my heart. I dream day by day. In my dream, I often dream that once upon a time, she called me in her dream and asked me why I was no longer playing the piano. I answered that the string was broken. When I saw her at the palace banquet, she was still cool and indifferent, but her face was almost the same as the woman in my dream, but she was not shy and tactful. My heart began to ache again. I didn't look at her more. When I was old, my father married me and all my brothers. But I didn't want to, but I couldn't resist the order. So I secretly found the flower willow I met in the street that day. After I went back, I stood in the middle of the night in the cold wind and took a cold shower on purpose. That was the first time I threatened and ordered the palace people in my palace not to talk too much. I was ill as scheduled, but I deliberately delayed seeing the imperial doctor. When I couldn't stay, I asked the imperial doctor. I was very ill. The doctor knelt on the floor. When he was half awake, he saw her reach out to me, but he was suddenly pulled back. When he opened his eyes, he saw her cold face. I am full of bitterness. In the concern of my father, I implore him to take back the edict. I thought to myself that I would be ridiculed because of my divorce. I spent to the stranger to thank, she said to me a long period of heartfelt words, for me to find the reason why my disease does not heal for a long time. In my heart, I moved out of the palace after I got well. She wants to treat me again. I only say that she has a bad reputation with Huang Sa, but she orders Lu Jing to treat me the next day. My heart gradually eased, but also forced myself to see the flower as the real Huang Sa, regardless of people in front of private. I always call her Huang Sa. Huang's sister-in-law once found out for me that the medicine I took for many years had been chronically poisoned. In fact, when I was mature, I gradually realized it. Only when I saw such bloody royal struggle as that when I was a child, I knew that the second emperor brother was just a kind-hearted man, and I knew that my poison was from the second emperor brother, but I didn't want to fight for it. My body gets better and better day by day. My eyes are bright and I don't dream anymore. The Prime Minister's Lu Qianqian was found out by the Emperor's sister-in-law. It was not the real Lu Qianqian. At the beginning, everything was framed. My calm heart is boiling again. I almost never drink, but I was drunk that night. My face was covered with cold tears, and my eyes were swollen and painful. The handsome man was so weak that she didn't want to see me. I finally entered the court and took over the case. I tried my best to investigate the person behind the scenes, but the person behind the scenes was so powerful that most of the people in the criminal department were not convinced with me. It took a lot of time and effort to investigate the case. When I finally found out some clues and asked Huang Sa to identify them, her words made me fall into the ice. That's something I've always been reluctant to admit. With my strength that day, I couldn't compete with the people behind the scenes, and I couldn't get justice from the real murderer, the second emperor brother. There was a hatred in my heart. I promised my sister-in-law that I would help the fifth brother sit on the dragon chair. There was only one request, that is, to trip the second brother together. As for the throne, I had no interest at all. I know the case quickly. Fortunately, the person who occupied her identity was punished. I hate that I didn't see it myself. It's hard to know what happened in the world. Before I could get used to everything in the court, my father fell ill. Next, the second emperor's brother conspired against me. I've been weak since I was young, and I can't practice martial arts. I can't help you. My fifth brother and his sister-in-law have spared their lives to protect me. I don't have any way to repay him. I can only sit on the throne for my brother, which he doesn't want to do. I just don't know how to practice martial arts. I have the help of my father's old cabinet minister in dealing with political affairs. I can handle it easily. I just hate that I'm not healthy and I'm sick again. The fifth emperor's brother was forced by the prime minister and his ministers, and his sister-in-law was imprisoned in the palace by his father. I was very anxious. I told Lu Zheng that I would recover quickly at any cost. Lu Zheng did have a way. I finally took the pill he gave me and recovered quickly. The price is to have the lifespan that is only 10 years, so that there are only 5 years left. As soon as he ascended the throne, the prime minister asked to leave and return to his hometown. I promised that he would not be held responsible for his crimes and that he would be released to provide for the aged. During my reign, I ordered you to go to the vassal area to exchange the fiefdom of the fifth emperor's brother and sister-in-law for the rich Huaiyang. The courtiers rode against it, and my mother and concubine advised me not to be stubborn. After half a month, I finally won. I changed the imperial brother's fiefdom to Huaiyang. In the past 3 years, I have actually left the sixth brother in the imperial city quietly. He is weak. I have spent a lot of effort to cultivate him into a man who can be made. He can barely be a king. After all, I am a selfish person. I have been in office for 3 years, and my body is getting worse. Lu Zheng told me that my time is running out. I simply pretended to be dead and abdicated. Before I left, I quietly left a letter to my mother, telling him that I was still alive, but I just went to find my girl and asked her to take care of Huaiyang more. After leaving the palace where I have lived for 20 years, I felt deeply tired. I went all the way down to Huaiyang and met my fifth brother and sister-in-law. They were very loving and their children could shout. It's a pity that I didn't see them and left soon. It's not that I don't want to. I'm just afraid that my sister-in-law will see my abnormality. Now, my wife is on the horse going to Jiangnan. I really want to go to the south of the Yangtze River. Maybe it's my obsession. Maybe I want to spend less than 1 year to see more of the rivers of the Kingdom of God. The scenery in the south of the Yangtze River is as beautiful and magnificent as it is rumored, but it's a pity that it's often appreciated alone, and I hope there is no one to accompany me. At the moment, the light rain is falling outside the window, and I take out my piano again with the light rain in the south of the Yangtze River. When the string is broken, it can always be continued. When someone is dead, it can't be renewed. I just want to leave more time for myself in the future. Go to remember the past. Exhausted all his life, he did not know, in fact, she is just a soul in the 3 souls of flowers in the street. Hua Qianlu is now holding the beauty home. Although she has not married Nanha, she still meets each other day. The only regret is that they haven't been married yet. With the beauty in front of them, he can only look at them eagerly. However, the new emperor's funeral will be over in a month, and he is ready to prepare. Think of here, riding on the horse on the flower willow can't help but grin, a smile. Before he had time to imagine a better life, Nanhi came over coldly and said, "What do you do when you smile like this?" When he said that, he could not help feeling a little disgusted. The smile on Hua Qianliu's face increased instead of decreasing, but he deliberately sold the official, "What do I want? You'll know when I get back to Huaiyang." The south crane side head looks at the flower thousand willow of the eyebrow eye open, the lip angle is tiny and can't be observed of lightly bend, the foot is tiny to exert oneself, drive the horse first. Hua Qianlu waved the whip in his hand and ran after him with a smile. In the past 3 years, they have developed a tacit understanding which is unknown to outsiders. Without words, they can understand each other's mind. Just like this time, they catch up with each other with one look. In the past 3 years, they have visited almost half of the mainland and seen a lot of feng shui and human relations. Now they come back suddenly. It's not necessary to spend 1,000 willows to talk about it, and Nanha knows it in his heart. However, after they arrived in Huaiyang, although Hua Qianlu was busy preparing for the wedding day by day, she never mentioned it to her personally, as if she had acquiesced that she would agree. At this point, after several days, Nanha was still a little stuffy, and the more he thought about it, the more angry he was. But after all, she is still a traditional woman in this era. She can't be bold enough to mention it. In the heart suffocated a breath, she to flower thousand willow nature also in difficult exhibition yen. Hua Qianlu didn't notice it, but called the steward to come and whispered, the silk of Jiangnan should be made as soon as possible, and the night pearl of Xinguo must be polished in 2 months, and transported back as soon as possible. The steward wrote it down one by one. He couldn't help laughing and joking, the lord of the pavilion is really trying his best for Nanha girl. Isn't it? He's going to pay back all the details of the wedding. He doesn't hesitate to spend nearly half of his financial resources and strive to give the best to Nanha. All the girls in the pavilion just look at it and envy it. When it comes to the wedding day, I think it will make all the women in Huaiyang City admire it. When the steward finished reporting to Hua Qianlu, he went downstairs and just met Nan He who was downstairs. Hello, Nanha girl. The steward smiles meaningfully and greets her. Nanha's face was a little tight, with only a slight nod. Here you are, Crane. Flower thousand willow eyebrow opened an eye to smile of saw to come over, South Crane but quick turn round, leave directly. Hua Qianlu quickly catches up with her and grabs her wrist, Crane, what's the matter with you? Nanha didn't turn back or open his mouth. He pursed his lips and didn't open his mouth. Hua Qianlu came up to Nan He and saw that her face was tense. She was all at a loss and innocent. What's the matter with you? Do you think I've made you unhappy? No. Nan He took out his hand and turned away from him. Hua Qianlu felt even more confused. She put a handsome face in front of her and slowed down her voice. Crane, if you are not happy, you can tell me directly, don't be so angry with me. Besides, we are going to get married in a few days. It's very unlucky for you to face so bitterly. When it comes to this matter, Nan He can't help feeling depressed for many days. He says with a cold face, when did I say I would marry you? How can you just acquiesce that I want to marry you? How can you say nothing? Flower thousand willow is first leng, a moment later just reaction come over, low voice ask away, you don't want? The South Crane coldly glanced at him and walked directly past him. Flower thousand willow busy a pull her hand, in the brain Shu Lingguang a flash, wait, you but wish I didn't ask you? South Crane this just footstep meal, pursed lip pedal to have no mouth. When Hua Qianliuden woke up, he patted his head. I'm happy and confused. I always think that you and I don't need to talk about this anymore. What does it mean to say nothing? The South Crane just calmed down a few minutes of anger, rubbed to rise up, one shook off his hand, in your eyes, am I worthless? Flowers and willows he really didn't expect that Nanha would be so angry. He came up and said in a soft voice, nature is not. In my eyes, nature is worth the best in the world. Crane, I know it's mine. Don't be angry with me, okay? Nanha pursed his lips and said nothing. His eyebrows and eyes were already loose. Flower thousand willow hearted joy, took advantage of her hand, pretended to be poor toward her blink, I already know wrong, if you are still not happy, then I ask you now to ask you. Then he straightened his face, took Nanha to the second floor and went back to the fence. He bowed, raised his voice and said, Nanha girl, I'm flowers and willows. I'd like to hire her and marry her. I don't know if she's willing. At present, the pavilion is still open, and he deliberately let everyone hear it. For a moment, everyone's eyes converge. South Crane only feel, even days of suffocation in this moment, the whole body of blood are boiling up, her cheeks are burning red. Most of the girls in Chunhuan Pavilion are bold. Seeing this, they coax her. They laugh and shout for Nanha's permission. Hui Qianliu also accepts her former dissolute appearance and slightly raises her head. She looks at her seriously and solemnly. South Crane originally wanted to simply agree, but the words were clearly in her throat, but her throat was tight, and she couldn't spit out a word. Rao is that she used to be cold and bold, but at this time, the eyes around her also made her shy and cramped to the extreme. She turned around and ran away. Flower Willow some stunned look up, looking at her back, without hesitation to catch up. Two people all the way to Chunhuan Pavilion, South Crane just stop, but because of the face blush, never turn back. Before Hua Qianlu could speak, she whispered, "I do." All the anger in his heart turned into ashes at the moment, and the corner of his lips raised high, and he held her up excitedly. It turned out that the feeling I heard from her was like this. It was really his fault before, so I would neglect it. Now that Hua Qianlu has made amends and asked for marriage, then he will also come down. Their marriage will be settled soon. At that time, the funeral of the former emperor is over, and everything can be prepared in a fair way. South Crane also left a lot of things, day by day also with busy. However, just less than half a month away from their wedding, the news of His Majesty Yan Xinchuan's death spread throughout the whole kingdom of God. The whole nation mourned, and the funeral was another year. This kind of news is a bolt from the blue for Hua Qianliu. Hua Qianlu, in particular, was holding the red silk which had been transported from Jiangnan for half a month. When he first heard the news, he dropped the red silk on the ground. Then there was a gnashing of teeth. The boy's body is not already good, how can it be like this? Looking forward to the wedding for 3 years had to postpone, Hua Qianlu's heart is really depressed, at the moment, naturally not in the mood to worry about Yan Xinchuan. Nan he couldn't smile anymore. He picked up the red silk and put it aside. He wanted to comfort him, but he was also full of boredom. He couldn't say any words of comfort. Although she doesn't say it on the surface, she looks forward to the wedding in her heart. Now she is really disappointed and bored. They sat quietly for a long time. Hua Qianlu suddenly stood up again. He was surprised and said, "How can things be so coincident? Yan Xinchuan's body can't say that he will die if he dies." South Crane also slightly frowned. A moment later, "Just wait, this matter is really strange, might as well you go to Yu Palace to have a look, the lord and the princess there may have some different opinions." Hua Qianlu answered, and soon rode to Yu's mansion. However, it was a waste of time. At that time, Mo Shanghua in Yanbei City was still waiting for the will of the imperial city, and she didn't know much about it. So in the next 2 months, Hua Qianlu would visit the imperial city almost every day to ask about the trend of the imperial city. It's just that the past few months have been fruitless. Until one day, he was ready to go to King Yu's mansion to find Yan Beiqing to give him away. However, a carriage stopped at the corner gate of King Yu's mansion. A man in white robes came out of the corner gate and was about to get on the carriage. Hua Qianlu had an idea and quickly stepped forward to hold the man. The man turned his head. Even if he was so impolite and directly grabbed, his voice was still as warm as ever. "Young master, what's the matter with you?" "Yan Xinchuan." As soon as the man's voice fell, Flowers and Willows suddenly cried out, and his eyes almost burst into flames. Yan Xinchuan, who was warm and white, looked at Hua Qianliu's face for a long time, then recognized him. His eyes swept around and said, "Lord, if there is something, we might as well go to the carriage and say it." "Good." Flower Thousand Willow Teeth should be next, eyes tightly staring at Yan Xinchuan, for fear that he will run the same. When he got into the carriage, he couldn't help but glare at him, almost gnashing his teeth. "Didn't you die? How did you get here?" Yan Xinchuan looked at Hua Qianlu. Although he felt inexplicable, when Xing explained, "If you don't hide it from me, I'm really pretending to die. Naturally, there's something wrong with me. I hope the pavilion leader can keep people in his mouth and never spread it. What if I spread it out?" Flower Thousand Willow is very angry at the moment. "Speak without brain, you go back quickly, tell the world you are not dead." He said that he was so naive that he pulled his sleeve forward, and his eyes seemed to be a bit oppressed. "To tell you the truth, Crane and I have survived 3 years of mourning, and we are about to get married in half a month. We have met you. You are a terrible evil." Yen Sinchuan listened to confused, reluctantly sort out a thought, quite surprised to look at him. "Is it because I have to cancel the engagement?" Hua Qianlu nodded bitterly. Who else can it be? At the thought that Mingming was only half a month away, he was almost depressed. Yen Sinchuan was silent for a moment. After all, he just leaned over helplessly. "I'm sorry, if I had known this, I would have delayed it for half a month." Flower Willow and slightly excited to seize his hand. "You mean, there is no remedy?" Yen Sinchuan's apology is more intense, full of apologies. "I'm just a white man at the moment. I'm afraid there's nothing I can do about it. I'm really sorry." Hua Qianlu almost couldn't control herself and wanted to strangle Yen Sinchuan. Fortunately, the seemingly ordinary coachman on the carriage threw a knife in at this time. He immediately accepted his thoughts and went to Yu's mansion with great grief and indignation. When he came back to Qinghuan Pavilion in the evening, Nanhe was waiting for him with his chin dragging. "Since there's no way, I'll wait for a year." Hua Qianlu sat down in front of her and thought for a long time. Then she took her hand and said, "Crane, let's get married in Japan." The South Crane slightly picks eyebrow, slightly some stunned looking at him. "I know that you were born into the kingdom of God, and you have some feelings about that." Hua Qianlu seems to have thought about it for a long time, and his words are more serious than ever. "But I don't want to wait any longer. I just want to marry you home quickly, so that you and I can be husband and wife. You can rest assured that no matter where it is, I will give you the best." When he spoke, he felt a little uneasy in his heart. He was afraid that Nanhe would not accept it. "Never thought about it." He just looked down and thought for a moment, then he held his hand back and said in a soft voice, "I'll be with you." Flower Willow big relief, 4 days of suffocation instant away, lips slightly hook up, instant have a good mood. Hua Qianlu was impatient to get married. As soon as Nanhe agreed, he quickly prepared to go down. The next day he took Nanhe to Japan. They have visited Japan many times before, and the scenery of Japan is excellent, which is also the most suitable place to get married. The wedding was too much. There were more than a dozen boxes, so they were not ready. Therefore, Hui Qianliu and Nanhe had already gone ahead of time and were ready to go to Japan. Along the way, the flowers and willows are quite eager. At the moment, they seldom slow down. Looking at the rosy clouds in the distance, they sighed softly. The scenery of the kingdom of God is not as good as that of Japan. The South Crane also slightly raises the eye to look. The dazzling sunlight shoots to the eye. She can't help but squint the eyes, but the lip cape still young, no longer have the past of the state of reserve. She suddenly turned her eyes and said with a smile, "I don't want to get married." Hua Qianlu was so frightened that she almost fell down from the horse and quickly asked, "Why? But what's wrong with me?" The South Crane bends the lips cape, the soft voice way, "Between you and I, already don't need these. Only in the future, go to the government and write a marriage letter." Hua Qianlu seems to understand the meaning of Nanhe in an instant, her eyes suddenly brighten up, her lips smile, "Good dash." Nanhe's eyebrows and eyes are also shining with the color of happiness, raised the whip and galloped away. Flower Willow eyes revealed a bit of doting, laughing to catch up, mouth shouting, "Crane, wait for me. I am the first god in the world, Tian Shan. My name is my mother Tian and my father Shinzhong. In this way, my parents should regard me as a treasure in the palm of their hands, but the fact is cruel. My father's love for my mother was miserable, but in my childhood memory, my mother never laughed at my father or me. My mother never went out of the palace door and stayed in the cold palace day by day. When I was a child, I was eager to be loved by my mother. I often tugged at the corner of her clothes and looked at her pitifully. But she just brushed away my little hand and turned away indifferently. Even the number of times she talked to me was very few. I even saw a little dislike from her eyes, but after many years, it was clearly disgusting eyes. My father loves me very much and can't make up for the vacancy caused by my mother, but my father never tells me why. Finally, one day, civil strife broke out in the clan, and my father had to go to calm down. Before leaving, he told me to accompany my mother more. My mother didn't like to talk to me, so I tried to open my mouth to attract her attention and tell her all the new and interesting things I knew and heard. When my mother heard that my father was not there, her dead eyes suddenly lit up, grabbed my shoulder and asked me excitedly whether what she said was true or not. I thought I was praised by my mother, and I poured out the reasons for my father's leaving. I just wish my mother would be happy and say a few more words to me. But I didn't expect that after my mother was excited, she stared at me for a long time in silence. The next moment, she grabbed the paper towel on the table and smashed it down on my forehead. I was dazed with stars in my eyes. Later, I could only feel my mother holding me tightly and murmuring in a low voice, "I'm sorry." After that, I heard all about it from other people. It's said that that day, my mother asked for help with me full of blood and got out of the palace smoothly through me. However, I, who was no longer valuable, was abandoned here for treatment and was unconscious, and she didn't hear from me. The father was very angry and returned home. He set up a net to search for his mother. Soon, his mother showed her feet and was surrounded by his father's heavy troops. I had just been rescued and I insisted on meeting my mother with my father. What I saw was that my mother was in a desolation, her thin body was surrounded by heavy soldiers, and her face was surprisingly white. I heard her father ask her whether she would like to go back with him or not. But the mother resolutely refused, leaving no room. Father seems unwilling, and asked, "You do not love me, even you and my children are regardless of it?" When I was young, I strained the corner of my father's clothes and looked forward to it. However, my mother's words directly shattered my little fantasy. Her eyes only stopped in my face for a moment, and then, with a look of disgust, she satirized my father for being too ridiculous, saying that it was only his child and had nothing to do with her. I saw my father's whole face twisted. In my heart, he was always cold outside. At that moment, I saw his struggle and hesitation. Finally, I softened my voice and advised my mother to go back with him. He was willing to agree to all his mother's requirements. Mother sneered and asked, "How can you give him back to me?" She suddenly raised her head and laughed. She had a God-killing knife in her hand. She tried her best and cursed fiercely with hatred on her face. She revived her former lover and let him lead the dead under the earth to become the most ferocious and powerful Protoss, devouring and destroying the Protoss. Before the knife stabbed at her chest, she suddenly turned her eyes to look at me. There was no hatred in her eyes, and there was a bit of sadness and pain. I couldn't understand the emotion when I was young. I just watched my mother's body fall down and blood flow all over the ground. Then, there was the terrible havoc of the Protoss. I lost my mother for only a few days. Later, my father also used his body to make atonement in repentance. As the descendant of the strongest leader Shen, I had to replace my father and become the leader of all. I didn't even have time to grieve for the death of my parents, so I was forced to take over the inheritance of my father and sit in a high position. It's just that I'm young. Even if I have such a great power, I won't use it at all. I was robbed of the power soon. My little self quietly fled to the lower world and practiced hard. Finally, before the 6 worlds were defined, I returned to the Protoss, defeated the usurper and became the supreme god of the Protoss. It was at that time that I was finally told the reason by the people who knew my parents' grievances. I used to hate my mother, but the result was unacceptable. I covered the scar on my forehead and sat in silence for 100 years. For me, 100 years is just a flick of a finger, and the world is changing. Finally, because I can't accept the fact, I ice myself up, and I can't see the sun or the world. I was frozen for thousands of years before I could wake up. At that time, the outside world had already had a new world. I finally figured it out. But since childhood, I have lost my mother's love and been hated by my mother, leaving indelible damage in my heart, just like the scar on my forehead, which should be left forever and remind me forever. One reminds me that I once had a mother, the other is that the deep brand in my heart makes me unwilling to remove it. The first thing I did when I woke up was to practice a few of my incarnations. Tianqin was one of them. My only purpose in doing this is the obsession in my heart. I want to find her reincarnation and see how she will choose to do it again. Everything is going well. When I stand in front of Yunwu with my illusory child and force her to make a choice, my heart is extremely complex. I have nothing else to ask for. I just wish he could give me the last trace of pity, the mother's pity for her son. In the end, she used her magic to attack me directly, coldly and painfully. The scar on my forehead was clearly left behind 10,000 years ago, but I felt it was aching again. Yunwu asked me to remove the scar on my forehead before sacrificing myself, but I didn't respond for a long time. Until she told me that she was not the daughter of heaven, and her desperate look in the direction of her son turned a huge wave in my heart. At that moment, the cloud dance in front of us coincided with the last look at her son when she was dying. I finally understand that my mother actually loves me. However, I am the child she was forced to give birth to by her father. She loves me and hates me because she can see my father and the man who killed her in this life through me. The knot of 10,000 years has been untied. I know, it's all destined. Also know that every mother can never not love their children. Later, I used half-body cultivation to return Yunwu's soul to her original world. Although Tiannu is already her past, I got the answer from her, so I will help her. Next, I will do my best to help her meet her mother again and fulfill her mind. Time is like water, but for a moment. Cloud Dance's cold and beautiful face was slightly stunned, and some uncertain words, Long Qing Xia, I seem to feel that there is something familiar here. They have traveled through many worlds, not to mention 3,000, but they have also seen a lot. The flowers and trees in each world have their own characteristics. In this suburb, many trees look similar to mainland China. The heart suddenly thumped, and the cloud dance was hard to restrain. She pulled a village woman over and said, "Aunt, is this the mainland of China?" "What else?" Aunt white her one eye, difficult not can be what state God continent, upper boundary fairyland? Cloud dance came back to God, eyes slightly bright, we back to mainland China. Since she and Long Qingxia met in modern times, they have been traveling in 3,000 worlds, and they have tried to return to mainland China, but they have never succeeded. Unexpectedly, they have come back by accident. Dragon Qing Evil Heart is also complex, take her hand, low voice way, maybe this is unintentionally inserted willow shade. Cloud Dance nodded his approval, holding his hand tightly, and said, "Since we are back, let's have a look at the city first." After a pause, her voice slightly lowered, "I want to see my grandfather and Nenganji. You can find them for 100 years and come back to me. Maybe they still remember me. I don't know." "Certainly." Long Qingxia nodded with a smile, and they walked hand in hand side by side. Their cultivation had already reached the level that no one could match. It was only a blink of an eye from the outskirts of the city to the city. However, the sight of the gate in front of them changed their faces. The trees and forests in the suburbs are unique to mainland China. Yes, but the city gate in front of us has already changed its appearance. The words on the city gate have also changed. Now only the word Linzhou is written high. Next, what they inquired about and got the news made them directly silent. The timeline of each world is different. It's just like Cloud Dance. It's only 7 years since she was born in modern times, but the dragon has been searching for her for 100 years. Today, the mainland of China has passed nearly 1,000 years. For thousands of years, maybe it won't change much for people in the fairyland and the divine world, but for people with a short lifespan, it will be full of vicissitudes. For nearly 1,000 years, the old dynasty of the Zhou dynasty has already disappeared in the long history, and the other dynasties have also been destroyed one after another. Today's mainland Chinese community has been gradually modeled in the years, and has lost its former appearance. Cloud Dance's slightly drooped eyes, covered the heavy sadness and disappointment at the bottom of eyes, and said in a soft voice, "Originally, I wanted to see them, but now it seems that I'm delusional to come back. It turns out that what has happened cannot be changed after all. Maybe Nangong Yi and them have already completely forgotten her. Old friends, never see each other again. Long Qingxie put his hand on her shoulder and whispered, life, old age, death, joys and sorrows are common. Besides, you have me and children now. It's perfect enough. Yes, there are so many regrets in the world. Cloud Dance gently nodded, clenched his hand. I want to go back to the original site of Cloud Home to have a look. Let's go out of the city first. Naturally, there is no reason why the dragon should not, so he nodded at the moment. Great changes have taken place in the human world in the past 1,000 years. It took them a lot of effort to find the location of the Cloud family. It's just that they're not wasting their time. Although the Cloud family in the past has disappeared, a broken Cloud family ancestral hall can still be seen in the ruins. And the tablet, which was almost modeled by the years, was inscribed with the word, Yun Qi, under which was the name of her father Yun Lingyi. After that, it was the tablet of many descendants of the Yun family in the past 100 years. Presumably, the people of the Cloud family have not been completely destroyed. There should be other branches hidden in troubled times. Long Qingxie's eyes glanced over a broken genealogy on the table. Yunwu picked up the genealogy and looked through it carefully. From the page of Yunqi, you can read the genealogy through the slightly yellow paper. Yunqi's life is just a few words on this genealogy. Fortunately, according to the genealogy, he finally died. Even Yun Lingyi's life is the same. But Huang Yingying, Yunwu's mother, only ends up missing. Cloud Dance pinches the hand of the page to tighten slightly, steady the mind to continue to turn back. I thought it would be the next generation of the Yun family, but I didn't think that the word, Cloud Dance, was printed on the genealogy very clearly. It seems that it was written by Yun Qi himself, with 4 or 5 pages. Yunwu's hand trembled violently, and his eyes showed a strong acid. He looked down carefully. Yes, the handwriting is written by Yun Qi himself. He not only did not forget her granddaughter, but also recorded all the deeds of her life clearly. Even after 100 years, the pride between the lines almost overflowed. Yunwu raised her eyes and looked at Long Qingxi. Her eyes were slightly red. She said in a trembling voice, I have existed. I really have existed. My grandfather has not forgotten me, and my Cloud family has not forgotten me. In my mind, it seems that Yunqi looks up slightly and smiles with pride. My granddaughter is the pride of my Cloud family. Long Qingxie came forward to hold the Cloud Dance. His voice was low and hoarse, you are worth it. Yunwu takes a deep breath, suppresses the surging emotion in his heart, brings the genealogy into the space, and then moves to the center of the ancestral hall, kneels respectfully to Yunqi's memorial tablet. Grandfather, Yunwu has lived up to the Cloud family. Long Qingxie, as her husband, saw that the thick soil on the ancestral hall disappeared with the wind when he waved. Then, he knelt down beside the Cloud Dance, respectfully as if he were his own grandfather. They kowtowed 3 times before they got up and left. Yunwu doesn't want to recover the Yuns. First, she can't stay here too long. Second, there are descendants of the Yuns. Now that they are in trouble, they should seek a future for themselves. With her current cultivation, it's not suitable to interfere in too many things in the world. After they cleaned up the ancestral hall, they left it. Out of the ancestral hall, they looked around in the old capital of Zhou dynasty, but the former Zhou dynasty had already turned into ashes. Except for the broken Yunjia ancestral hall, the rest of the Guashifu and so on could not be found. But one day, they had already made a quick tour of the human world, but they never found out again. When they wanted to leave, near the crack of time and space they split, a woman rushed out of the village and yelled, "Come on, monster, there's a monster in the village." The Cloud Dancing Dragon looks at each other and walks towards the village one after another. The village is very small, many houses are empty, only a few old people live sporadically, now they rashly come in, but it is particularly desolate. However, in this quiet village, a thin boy stood in the middle of the village. His clothes were shabby and dilapidated. He had more than 10 patches, and he was very thin. The only special thing was that he had 3 eyes, and the one on his forehead was half open at the moment. It was really frightening. The child seemed to be able to see that Yunwu and Longqingxi had the same cultivation. When he saw them, he immediately turned around and ran. Yunwu is a little excited. He thinks that Nanganji, who used to have 3 eyes, is in front of the boy with a flash of his body. Longqingxia also follows him and stands behind him. They block his way back. The child's eyes showed some vigilance and fear. He simply retreated to the root of the wall, raised a small hand and covered his forehead to block the eye. Cloud danced to the interest. Some curious light asked, "Why do you see me to hide?" The child pursed his lips and said, "Your accomplishments are very high." So high that he could not see the depth at all. He was afraid that they would come and plunder his 3rd eye. The cloud dance heart feels funny, can't help but soft voice way, "Don't worry, my cultivation can't rob you a child's different eye." At this time, Longqingxia suddenly raised his hand and grasped one of his hands, and a spirit power ran into the child's pulse. However, the child has no feeling, just with vigilance to pull out his hand. "What do you do?" After a while, Longqingxia released his hand and raised his eyes to see the flowers on the street. He is the reincarnation of Nangong Yi. Cloud Dance has not yet opened his mouth, the child has been tongue-tied, reflective opening. "How do you know?" Cloud Dance heart suddenly awake up, eyes straight staring at him. "You know your past life." The child's eyes became more alert, and he bit his mouth to death. Cloud Dance simply squats down and whispers, "If I have malice, you are dead now. Don't worry. I'm just curious about your past life, but I don't have any impression on you." After a pause, she suddenly said, "My name is Yunwu." The child's original expression was not loose. When he heard the name of Yunwu, he relaxed a little. His eyes fell on her beautiful face and said, "Are you really Yunwu?" Cloud Dance very affirmative nod, "You're this I should be able to see, I have no evil spirit on the body, can't be a bad person." After a long discussion, the child gradually relaxed, tangled for a while, then said, "Do you want to ask Nangong Yi?" Cloud Dance slightly pick eyebrows, eyes slightly excited, "You remember?" The child shook his head, then nodded and said, "No, Nangong Yi is my grandfather." Not to mention the Cloud Dance, even the dragon could not suppress the shock in his heart and said, "Your grandfather? Is Nangongji your grandfather? What about your grandmother? Who is your grandmother?" "My grandmother's name is Ye." "Is the full name Yichi Color?" Looking at the villain who nodded in front of him, he looked complicated and gratified. It seems that Nangong Yi had a very comfortable life. Longqingxia seems to be in a good mood, and the corners of his lips are gently raised. It should have been so long ago. The child frowned slightly, looked at Yunwu carefully, and said, "My grandfather and grandmother often mention you, so I remember you." Cloud Dance can't hide the excitement, can't help grabbing his small shoulder. "What you said is true. Does your grandfather really remember me? Where is he now? Don't shake me." The boy retreated, escaped from the magic claw of Cloud Dance, and said, "They went to other places 100 years ago, and no one knows where they are going." Cloud Dance's eyes, hard to hide disappointment and regret, turned to think, but also quite gratified. "However, they still remember me, and often mentioned me in front of you. I am also satisfied." Longqingxia also frowned slightly and pulled up the boy's sleeve. "Your grandfather traveled to other places 100 years ago, so how can he have you?" Cloud Dance at the moment also just noticed this point, eyes slightly alert. "Who are you in the end?" The child's whole body trembled for a while. For a long time, he suddenly laughed, and his eyebrows and eyes seemed to be warm. At that time, there was no me, but Nangong Yi always existed. After a pause, he said with a smile, "Yunwu, don't get hurt. You don't want Nangong Yi to have offspring, but his reincarnation." Cloud Dance very firm mouth, voice slightly excited. As soon as Longqingxia released his hand, he put the child back to the ground. Looking at the dwarf who was just up to his waist at this time, he said with a smile, "I said you were his reincarnation, Nangongji. I didn't expect you to play any tricks in front of us. Nangong-yi is only a child of 7 or 8 years old. His small face is not big enough. At this time, when Yen just smiles. He just looks like a little adult. Cloud dance is not suitable, but it's very strange. Nangong-yi didn't care. He looked up at her and said with a smile, I knew you were back. I've been waiting for you here. It turned out that he had already remembered the existence of cloud dance 100 years ago. Now he is reincarnated, not because of other people, but because he is dedicated to performing his duties, has been guarding the Zhou dynasty, not willing to fly up, when the Zhou dynasty collapsed, and encountered a lot. This is the reincarnation now. However, it's quite surprising that Shengguan and they have been reincarnated one after another, and now they all remember their own memories. This village seems to be hidden, but it's actually a pure land in today's troubled times. Their reincarnations are all hidden here, which is good for life and cultivation. And the South Palace E and Night Chi color is also serious already together, at this moment nature also with his reincarnation. As a result, Yunwu and Longqingxi follow Nangongji to the center of the village and jump into a well. There is space in the well. And the scene in the space, but let the couple especially can't help laughing. In the past, the handsome and gorgeous companions of the same trade have now turned into children. Their looks are almost the same as before. But the appearance of carrying a small body and practicing solemnly with eyes closed really makes people laugh. Long Qingxia, on the other hand, did not give face. He directly laughed and stepped to the side of little Situlan. He touched his hair, as if the elder was communicating with the younger generation. He said with a smile, it's good. It's really good that I can cultivate to this level now no matter how good his temper was. Situlan couldn't help brushing his hand away and said, go away, I know how to practice. Don't bother me. Situlan had been an emperor of the state of An, but he died for some reasons. Now he has just awakened the memory of his previous life, and he is not depressed. I haven't seen you for nearly 1,000 years. It seems that everyone has just seen you yesterday. They are surprisingly familiar with each other. Among them, Yechi is the only one who still keeps the appearance of his youth. At the moment, he can't help but get up and come forward and smile. Yunwu, I didn't expect to see you in this life. In this troubled time, although Nangong-yi insisted on guarding the Zhou dynasty, he died, but he protected Yechi very well. I don't think my memory will exist. Cloud dance and night chi color stand opposite each other, eyes cannot hide joy. Nangong-yi came forward, Qingrun a smile, how possible, not only we, but also Mengbai, little Warcraft, they have never forgotten you. Cloud dance heart micro jump, quickly asked, where are they now? Night chi color took the conversation, Wei said with a smile, since they have recovered their memory of you, they travel around looking for your trace. You can rest assured that their vitality is much stronger than ours. As long as you are still there, there will always be a meeting day in the future. Yunwu was a little relieved. After thinking about it, he said, how are Shengguan, Muxiaming and Baiqingshui now? Situlan got up and came over, holding his chest in both hands, and said, don't worry, they haven't forgotten you. Bai Qingshui should be the same as us now. Shengguan and Mu Xiuming are safe and well, not as unlucky as us. Long Qingxia came forward, took Yunwu's hand, so, you can rest assured. Cloud Dance slightly nodded, lips slightly raised, heart of regret greatly resolved. Nangong-yi raised her eyes and looked at her. Her eyebrows and eyes were as gentle as usual. I know you can't stay long. Meng Bai and they should be able to get together with you soon. When you see them, you can leave. When you come back next time, we should have recovered to the past. Night Chi color squats down body to come, very familiar of took to lead South Palace Yi's hand, Wei, I also can wait for him all the time, you just don't worry. Nangong Yi's words are not faking. Meng Bai and Little Warcraft soon smell his breath and come to find her. Even Shengguan Mu Xiuming has come. As for the reincarnation of Bai Qingshui, they also go to find her. In this way, Yunwu's original slightly depressed mood was completely relieved. She leans on the arms of Dragon Qingxie and looks at the friends who are gathered together at this time. Her eyes are full of smile and satisfaction. I'm satisfied to get the present situation. Dragon Qing evil low mouse smile of open mind, two people 10 fingers interlock, none of them can with you I leave this world, if you miss later, I will always accompany you back. Yunwu seems to be filled with great happiness in his heart. He nods his head with a smile and leans quietly in his arms. After a while, she said softly, this life is enough. If the only regret is her mother who has disappeared for many years. However, she has long been open, and now the most important thing is to cherish the present.